we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin yang, come along.
Well, come along and welcome aboard the Indiana Sports Beat with Coy O'Leary coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, powered by Rivals here on this Thursday, May 14. Happy birthday, Kylie. May 14th is a date stuck out in my mind forever. Big birthday day for my girl, so happy about that. But, Todd, plenty to talk about. Clark Kellogg's going to be on today. Steve Aird from Indiana Volleyball. Dustin Schutte from Saturday Tradition. Lots to get to, lots to talk about, man. How's everybody doing today?
Good. Left out today's Christmas. Remember, yesterday was Christmas Eve for weather. Today is Christmas.
True.
Because it's so 80 degrees today.
Yesterday may have been the most boring day of my life. It was horrible. It was just a horrible day and long of nothingness. But hopefully we get past it. We got plenty to talk about, that's for certain. Rutgers going to mobile ticketing only for football and parking, basketball and parking and hospitality, women's basketball. And it's funny, you can see what sports are bigger at some schools. Wrestling and men's lacrosse are part of the 5. So that tells me that's their 5 big sports: men's lacrosse and wrestling. I did not realize Rutgers. But the thing that I think about is the elderly. Can you imagine getting behind grandma showing up just to get her parking spot, and she's got to get her Galaxy phone out and do the app thing? I'm like, oh, man, I can see some lines forming because of that.
Yeah, no, it's you know what? It's where it's going to get to in 5 or 10 years. I mean, you can look at it like it's kind of going to be a pain now, but it's also probably what everyone's going to be going to eventually, or pretty close to it.
Probably true in this day and age. There's no doubt about that. We're going to see so many changes.
But the elderly people you're talking about are the ones who like the change the least, generally.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
You're right. It's not going to help lines, that's for sure.
Let's see. Wilson replacing Spalding as the official ball of the NBA. So, Wilson! That's kind of – you don't see those ball changes very often, but
yeah, you very rarely ever see it.
Because
that's a good trivia question. What was the official ball of IU basketball during Bob Knight's tenure? Can anybody name it?
Baden?
Yep.
Wow!
The absolute worst ball in history of any basketball that was ever made. It was the hardest ball.
Hard and slick.
Awful. Why? I mean, I don't know. I don't have to say why.
Yeah.
I mean, he got paid. He got paid for us to play with a terrible ball. It was awful.
Oh my God. Well, I mean, I would think that would matter. So imagine you are pretty damn good with a terrible ball. Imagine how good
let's put it this way: we didn't go into anybody else's arena that had one, so
the ball that they use today is almost so much easier. They have channels in the seams. Right? It's like I can almost still to this day palm today's ball. I'm like,
yeah,
this is not. I don't have
I still at my age can't palm a Baden basketball that we used back then, but I can palm any of the new ones.
Yeah, it's a big
difference. The material of the leather is so much stickier than what it used to be. It's awesome.
Dude, it's like the gloves, a receiver uses in football.
Yeah.
I found one of those one day and I picked it up just to have it. And I put it on and I had a ball and I'm like, are you kidding me? It's like, well, no kidding. No wonder they're making these damn catches.
It's like a magnet.
It is. It's crazy. And I'm like, how do you drop a ball with these gloves on? Yeah. It blows my – and they're not sticky. It's just that vinyl where it grabs. And man, oh man, does it grab. And I was like, you're out of your mind. I'm like, no wonder I can see OBJ making those one-hand grabs.
Yeah, it sounds stupid to think – I mean, back to the basketballs. I mean, it sounds dumb to think that the texture of the leather on the ball could make a difference. But it does. It makes a difference from ball handling. And like when the ball hits the floor, it spins. Like it catches and spins a lot different than it does normally. I mean, it's slicker, so there's no grab and bounce where the new balls, the grab and you can get a truer bounce, where those balls, you probably didn't know where the hell they were going to go. Yeah. I mean, it's from ball handling perspective is the biggest difference. I mean, shooting is not quite as much, although it's just softer when it hits the rim. But the new balls from a ball handling standpoint are so much more advanced than what.
But that had to be a hell of an advantage when other teams came in to play with those crap balls.
It was funny when you would get teams to come in and they would be there at shoot around, and you would see them come in and pick these balls up, and they're like, "What in the heck is this?" It looks like you're playing with the fake leather outdoor balls.
Yes. Oh God, those are terrible. Make that big ping when you bounce them. Ping.
Yeah, they're awful.
Georgetown, Pat Ewing, man, he's not having a good morning. He is lost. You talked how much you do not like this transfer portal anymore. And here's a good reason why. Georgetown and Pat Ewing has lost 5 guys to the transfer portal, but the biggest one of all is Matt McClung, who entered the NBA draft, decides to pull his name back out of the draft, but says, yeah, but I'm not coming there. I'm going to go somewhere else. Preseason All-American they think this guy's going to be. You know what? You're familiar with his game. He's a bad dude.
Yeah, he is. So, well, Georgetown had a bunch of, in-season issues. I mean, they had guys that got kicked off. When they finished the season, they only had, maybe 5 scholarship players still playing. But Mac McClung was, I don't know if he was truly injured for most of the year. He set out the good portion of the last half of the year. I mean, he didn't play like the last 10 or 12 games. But I mean, this is a kid that's, I'm going to say early in his career, because we remember Carson Edwards from Purdue as a senior, which obviously was his best year. Mac McClung, I think, has 2 years left of playing. He's going to be junior version of Carson Edwards. He can score that much. Now he takes some wild, crazy shots, and you got to be willing to put up with, him taking a bunch of crazy shots. But he is a scorer, and he's a good player. He's as athletic as can be. He's had dunk videos since he was in like the 8th grade go viral on YouTube. So, I mean, there aren't a whole lot of players that enter that thing that I think would be that interesting for IU. I think he was a player that would definitely be interesting for IU.
Oh my gosh. And the help. I mean, we talk about guys coming in like Christian Lander who can learn from a guy like that. And play off of. It's just the dynamic, the change that a player like that can make on a team. It's unbelievable. And it's not just equal to their level. It's exacerbated. It's much higher.
I'll tell you a place that, in my opinion, would be a really good fit for him would be Georgia. He is a Tom Crean type player because he plays 1,000,000 miles an hour. I think Tom Crean is one of the only coaches in the country that doesn't have a turnover column in the stat sheet, because he doesn't care about him, apparently, because he'll just allow you to dribble the ball straight out of bounds and doesn't even care. And I like Tom Crean a lot. He's a great person. I'm just saying, like, Indiana turned the ball over at a ridiculous pace when he was here. But Mac McClung is a guy who could fit right into a system like that, where coming off a year where Anthony Edwards is allowed to basically shoot anytime he wanted. I mean, that's the kind of system Mac McClung needs to play for.
And does that eliminate him? Because we saw Fitzner come in as a grad transfer who was a 40% three-point shooter. And he comes in the end and he can't hit water if he falls out of a boat. And I don't know if that's part of the restrainment of a different type of not free-flowing system where it changes the flow and the rhythm that they get in. Is that something that he would not prosper because of a different style of play?
Yeah, I mean, most of the time in those transfer portals, I mean, absolute most of the time, you're not getting a guy who has had a super successful career. I know Fitzner had a high percentage, but he also wasn't a high volume shooter. So it's not like he was making 6 threes a game at where is he from? I want to say California, somewhere in California, St. Mary's. And came here and all of a sudden couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. He didn't shoot very much. I mean, he didn't play very much. And you're right. A lot of it just was because he didn't really fit in with the system. And it was, I don't know. Mac McClung is one of those guys that I don't know him personally. I don't know a lot about him personally, but I know I've seen a lot of his games. I've just followed him since he was in high school. And he's a player that can help a lot of teams. I don't know if he's got off the court issues. I mean, that whole team at Georgetown had problems. I mean, they had guys they had to kick off the team. So 5 of their guys in their transfer portal got kicked off their team in December. So they've got guys that had some issues, and Patrick Ewing obviously is not putting up with a whole lot of crap. I mean, heck, you saw they lost those guys to the transfer portal. They also lost a guy that declared for the NBA draft, that year 7 kid. He declared for the NBA draft already, so they're gutted. Like, they're going to be a new squad.
Year 7.
That's his name. It's like something year 7.
Oh, I thought you meant he had 7. He somehow was
no. His name
7
is
years.
Yurt 7.
Oh, Yurt 7.
Yurt 7.
Yeah, I think that transfers, unless they come from a very similar system, they will have trouble fitting into Archie's system. Archie's system seems very not restrained, but specific, I guess is a better word, especially on the defensive end, which there's no problem with that. I mean, we look at Michael Jordan. I mean, that's a dude that made his living playing just as hard on the defensive end as the offensive end, and a lot of players don't understand that today. You guys did, because that was his bigger part of your offense was the defense preceding it.
Yeah, it was. Ours was just so easy. I mean, Coach Knight, you had rules, and once you learned the rules and it became kind of human nature to rotate and move with the ball, defense. People find this hard to believe sometimes when I tell them this, but we very rarely practice defense. Once you learn the system and learn where you're supposed to be, it's pretty simple. That's where you're supposed to be. You don't have a choice. When the ball is at a certain spot and your man's at a certain spot on the floor, this is where you're supposed to be. And if you're not there, you don't play. It's really that simple. And so we practiced offense. 90% of our practices were based on our offense. And, our defense was good because if you play hard and you're in good position, Coach Knight had the theory that we're going to play our system and we're going to play it hard in the best of our abilities. And if you score, you score. I mean, we haven't held anyone scoreless ever. So there was a lot of times, as long as you were in the right position and your guy scored, you didn't get in any trouble or issues at all. But in today's world, these players, I don't think Archie Miller's system is as tough or rigid to be a part of. I think a lot of it has to do with just playing hard, and a lot of it has to do with giving the effort. And the players that have been in the system, obviously, you take a guy like Rob Finnessy. I mean, he thrives in the defensive system for Coach Miller, and that's because he plays hard. He's in good position. He's good defensively. So I don't know. I mean, I don't see it being that tough of a system. I see, a guy like Mac McClung is a lot like, a lot of guys that were like me and that played with me, Greg Graham and Pat Graham and guys like that. I mean, we were offensive minded, offensive oriented, and we played defense because we had to. And I think he's kind of that way, but he'll fit in. He'll fit in his basketball game wise, no matter where he goes. He'll be welcome there because he can score.
Absolutely. Hey, we'll talk about that more later. We're going to take a quick break. Coming up next, Clark Kellogg's going to join us here on the program. Stay tuned. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, powered by Rivals. Go to thehoosier.com. We're back with Clark Kellogg right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. This is Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Indiana Sports Beat is now a part of the Rivals Network. You can go to thehoosier.com to sign up. It's free. Catch the show there each day live or at your convenience. You can also like or follow us on Facebook, follow the show's rebroadcast anywhere you podcast. If we're not on a radio station where you live, we should be. Let your local station know they need to carry Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, or simply go to thehoosier.com.
Some of the best sounds you'll ever hear are generic, safe, effective, even money-saving, just like FDA-approved generic drugs. Even if they don't come in the exact same color or shape as their brand name equivalents, they have the same key ingredients and go through a rigorous review process. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today and visit fda.gov/generic drugs. Generics are safe, effective, and can save you money. You'll like the sound of that.
This is former Indiana basketball player Brian Evans, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, powered by Rivals here on this Thursday. Joined now by one of our absolute favorites, a great analyst, college basketball analyst, Clark Kellogg. Clark, how are you, man?
Hey, what's up, Jim? Are you solo today, or is Todd?
No, Todd's sitting here. He's keeping things on the run.
He's holding me down,
right.
Clark.
Well, greetings to both of you, man. How are you guys doing in these uncertain, very unique and crazy times?
Yeah, it's crazy out there. We're just fortunate to have great people like you who take the time to talk to us, keep us from going crazy, talking to each other in here. It's nuts.
Too, but yeah, it's good to connect with you guys.
What are you doing to spend this time? It's so weird. Like I was just telling Todd in the last segment, yesterday may have been the most boring day of my life, and I'm just looking around. There's just, wow, I've reached that point. I'm trying to do everything possible, but sometimes you run out of stuff.
No question. It's different, and it's different for everybody. I mean, we're all going through it. Obviously, shelter in place, staying safe, being prudent and practical, and then trying to occupy your time in a purposeful way. I mean, for me, the most challenging time was obviously during March when we didn't have the NCAA tournament, which would really occupy a great deal of my time and energy and attention and would captivate the country, but that wasn't to be. And so once I got through that period of readjusting and dealing with the reality of trying to be safe for myself and my family and others, I just really started to delve into my off-season routine just a tad earlier. Obviously a totally different environment and landscape around it, but reading, quality time with my wife, taking up an additional hobby or two. Jigsaw puzzles became something that we revisited and enjoyed. I got through a couple of good books, catching up on some TV shows, some writing. So, yeah, just trying to be and then trying to figure out ways to be helpful to those that are really struggling and in tough spots because of this pandemic. So I've been fairly productive and also resting and just trying to be prudent and do what's just and right and fair and best to the degree that I can, you know.
Todd, you became a Sudoku champion.
Yeah, I have spent my time wasted on Sudoku for
nothing wrong
lack
with
of.
that. I'm a gamer.
What's
too,
that?
Man. I'm a WWF guy, though. When my wife and I are words with friends, folks, and other games. Yeah, but Sudoku, that's pretty cool. Excellent. Good for you, man.
Yeah, well, I declared myself champion in my house because I'm the only one around here, so it's pretty darn easy to win that award. Hey, we've had a lot of stuff going on, especially here in the state of Indiana, and now we see Mac McClung turning over to basketball-related topics here. Mac McClung transferring from Georgetown, and we've seen a bunch of big-time transfers.
Purdue.
I get on my high horse here all the time about how much I dislike this new transfer portal and how they're making it so easy for kids to change schools, and it's going to gut some schools and programs, which we're kind of seeing with Georgetown right now. You know, I'm a local opinion on this. You're much more of a national opinion that talks to a lot more big time people about it. What's your opinion about this, the transfer portal and the way it's going and the way it's kind of shaping some college basketball programs right now?
Well, I don't like it. I really don't. Because I think a lot of times the motivation is a little misguided, but that's part of young people making decisions and having the ability to make decisions that often aren't born out of wisdom or a full-blown perspective. And yet there's part of me that enjoys the fact that players have the option to make that decision if they deem it's best for them. So I'm torn. I don't like it. Most of me doesn't like it because in my experience, and again, it's a limited one, I think oftentimes kids are making that move because they think it's going to be easier or better somewhere else versus making where they are better, unless there's something extenuating that supports making a change. Again, you have to be able to accept both sides of the coin. If you offer the freedom to make the choice, then you have to deal with sometimes the consequences of that freedom, which to me is just a quick, easy, it's not working here. Let me see if I can find some place that I think might be easier, as opposed to, you know, some of the benefits you get from working through. And, you know, it works both ways, guys. Sometimes you leave and it is better to find a better fit. I realize that, but I don't think that's the vast majority of the cases. I really don't. I could be wrong, but I think, again, it's part and parcel of how kids are in this day and age, where there's a desire to have everything you want the way you want it as soon as you can have it. And that's just not reality in any aspect of the world, but it is part of how the kids that are growing up now tend to think and act.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things and aspects that I blame AAU basketball for. And there's also some great aspects to it, and there's some terrific things that come from AAU. But if you follow the AAU circuit, or involved in it, or have kids that play in it, you see this on a regular basis all over the place. Of any time, you'll see a kid play for 3 or 4 or sometimes 5 or 5 plus AAU programs in a year. And when things aren't going their way, they just jump ship and flip over to another team. And you're kind of seeing that filter into college basketball. And I can remember so many, we'll call them the dog days of hard work and practice and summertime. And the majority of kids that are at a school don't enjoy every second of being there. Like, it's tough. It's a lot of hard work. And now I think we're seeing a lot of kids, as soon as the work gets pretty tough or whatever it is. And I don't mean to badmouth the kids. You fight through a lot of that stuff when you don't have, the immediate option. They don't make it so easy for you to just see what your value is at other schools. And I think this is a factor of some of the AAU stuff, but also, I don't think they're letting kids learn, the value of fighting through hard times like that. And it's so much greater on the back end of it when you do fight through that, and you do get that sense of accomplishment of getting through that. And that's it's just the Purdue thing, we're Indiana guys. I'm not a Purdue guy, but I hate to see like what's happening with Matt Painter and those guys up there, because that's 2 seniors. They were going to not just make Purdue better. They were going to make college basketball in general better. at Purdue this coming year. Actually, no, Joe Eastern's just a junior, but I mean, he's a seasoned veteran playing on that team, and I hate the fact that a team like that is going to lose players just because they're making it so easy for guys to leave.
Yeah, you know what? You touch on a lot of different things that are all relevant and accurate, in my opinion. I think we can't separate the landscape and the environment of AAU from what we see in college basketball in multiple ways. Clearly, the fact that AAU has become such a huge part of the recruiting landscape over the last 20 years and its influence on the game is evident, particularly in the ways that you indicated, in that there's recruiting going on for AAU programs. And I don't want to paint all AAU programs with the broad same brush, but clearly the ability to hop teams and jump programs is part of the landscape. And how could that not influence kids as they head to college? And the other element, and again, this is multi-layered and multifaceted. It's just not a simple black and white issue. There are a lot of pieces to it. But also you can't discount the parental involvement and influence in this trend of, if it's not working, let's find a place where it might work to satisfy what our desires are, and sometimes dismissing or discounting the potential for personal growth by going through an adverse situation. If it's not demeaning and not debilitating, if it's just headwinds that are part of growing and developing, sometimes those are better than trying to find the perfect fit. And a lot of times, parental influence is a big part of this. Even at the college level, we see it on the high school level with the number of transfers and kids moving outside of districts and the recruiting. So all of that is layered on top of what you see taking place in college. And I go back to the point, there are times that it makes sense for a lot of reasons for kids to change schools. The volume of the changes and the number of changes and the reasons for the changes are oftentimes what give me some pause and cause me to wonder and shake my head about it. But I'm for athletes having that right, and it does certainly has changed the landscape and creates some collateral damage along the way. I don't think there's any question about that, guys.
Also, college basketball hit with, and it's been an extension. We knew it was coming, but Kansas, of course, Louisville hit with these allegations, and then of course there's other ones out there that we're thinking is coming. But now Duke and Zion Williamson's name is popping up. A lot of the big time programs' names are coming up on these lists here quickly.
Yeah, and that was anticipated and thought to be the case. It's taken a little while for it to get to that point, but initially, when this investigation became public, I think it was the fall of 2017, there was this great fear and expectation that some of the bigger named programs would be caught in this storm. And clearly that seems to be playing itself out now. And we'll see where it leads. I mean, obviously, those of us that are close to college basketball know that as good as it is on some levels, there's some dark pieces to it and some ugly sides to it. And that's being exposed, and as it continues to filter out and resolutions are gotten to, we're going to see some damage. I don't know to what degree, but I think we'll see some damage to programs and individuals and to the game initially, and we'll obviously work through this pandemic. That's another element as to how we come out of things, but there's a lot of moving parts taking place right now, and not all of it is good, obviously.
Yeah, it's weird because it is all hitting at once. I mean, you add the COVID-19, which is crazy,
yep.
But then you've got the name, image, likeness, and we've got the transfer portal issue we've been talking about.
Yep.
And there's so many of these things. They're all coming together. And then we know that college basketball, sports in general, are going to change forever because of COVID-19. I mean, when you come back to do a game, your first game, it's going to be without fans, assuredly. Have you thought about how weird that's going to be?
No, I haven't. I haven't given myself a lot of time to dwell there. I'm actually just trying to focus on getting through and how do I become better in meaningful ways having gone through this? How do I help others get through it. I've been thinking a lot about that. What areas of need might our family support? What might I be able to lend my voice and influence to in a meaningful way as we navigate this? The basketball side of it, I've kept a little bit of an eye on it, but not much. And again, that's my normal posture. Once the season is over, I keep an eye on some of the headlines, but I try to get away from it some in order to be refreshed and ready to barrel in later in the summer, early fall. And so I haven't gone away from that routine too much. And clearly the pandemic and how we're working through that has started to take, has taken a lot more of my time, attention, and thought. But a lot of different things going on. And I guess I could say that I'm prayerful for our athletic directors and leaders of institutions and organizations and the like, because it's a challenging environment that requires really good, thoughtful, patient, prudent leadership. And I'm hopeful that's being done. And I see it being done in all aspects of our society, sports, obviously the greater picture around government and work and employment and needs. So that's kind of my posture. Be patient, be prudent, be prayerful, and try to be helpful where you can.
Have you watched the Last Dance first 8 episodes?
Oh yeah, I've been locked in on that. That's appointment television. That's appointment television, man.
What are your thoughts? I mean, there's a lot of guys that kind of mirror you in career time perspective, and you were involved in the NBA
Sure.
during a lot of that time.
Yeah, great memories. Obviously, a number of my peers, because I got drafted in 1982 by the Pacers. My career ended in 87, but I was well into my broadcasting career during that time with the Pacers, where I got my broadcasting start. So to revisit some of those outstanding Pacer teams, just to think about it, I know in these next two episodes, the final two, that the Pacers will probably have a prominent role, because that's who the Bulls beat to get to the NBA Finals in '98 in a 7-game series that the Pacers had every opportunity to win. And so looking forward to just revisiting that. But it's been good. It's been really good. Rich, well done. I've learned some things I didn't know. And it reinforces how difficult it is to win championships at that level, and some of the things that are necessary and required to make it happen. And the way the Bulls went about it, 6 and 8 years, and some of the turmoil and drama that existed within those years is remarkable to revisit and to take a look at from this current perspective.
What was the biggest, wow, I didn't know that moment for you watching that?
Well, the Dennis Rodman trip was one of them, clearly. That mental health break in the middle of the season.
Load management. That was the original load management.
Yeah. That was it. And then the other, I'd forgotten a little bit about the drama around Jerry Krause and that final season. And that all, revisiting that, was wow. This was really going on in real time in the late 90s. And I had forgotten a little bit about that. But the Dennis Rodman trip was one that stood out to me as something that, one, it probably couldn't happen today or wouldn't, and that I had never heard about. I had never heard that story until watching the documentary.
That stuff is so funny. Clark, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to join us here. It's just always a joy talking to you, and we both just love it so much.
Well, my pleasure, guys. Stay safe, stay healthy, and eventually we'll be on the other side of this. I don't know what that'll look like, but eventually we will get there, and hopefully college basketball will be part of us getting back to normal at the appropriate time.
We're looking forward to it. Clark Kellogg, I can't thank you enough, man. I hope you have a great and safe day, and nothing but the best to your family.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Todd. Take care, guys.
See you, buddy. Thanks.
Clark Kellogg, the great CBS analyst, former great player, joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat. Coming up next, Steve Aird, volleyball coach from Indiana, is going to join us. They've got the best recruiting class in their history. Stay tuned. Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Lurie, back with more. Sponsored by Rivals.
everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. This is Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Indiana Sports Beat is now a part of the Rivals Network. You can go to thehoosier.com to sign up. It's free. Catch the show there each day live or at your convenience. You can also like or follow us on Facebook, follow the show's rebroadcast anywhere you podcast. If we're not on a radio station where you live, we should be. Let your local station know they need to carry Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, or simply go to thehoosier.com.
Some of the best sounds you'll ever hear are generic. Safe. Effective. Even money-saving, just like FDA-approved generic drugs. Even if they don't come in the exact same color or shape as their brand name equivalents, they have the same key ingredients and go through a rigorous review process. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today and visit fda.gov/generic drugs. Generics are safe, effective, and can save you money. You'll like the sound of that.
Hey, this is Jordan Halls, former Indiana Hoosier. Keep up with Indiana sports on Indiana Sports Beat.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, powered by Rivals here on this Thursday. Happy birthday, Kylie. Let's say that every time. Joined now by our good friend, Coach Steve Aird from Indiana Volleyball. Coach, welcome aboard, man.
Good morning, guys. How we doing?
Pretty good, brother. How are you?
I'm well. Doing what most everyone's doing, staying out of trouble, staying out of the way, homeschooling 3 young kids. I got a 9-year-old, 7-year-old, and a 4-year-old who just got done with their homeschooling last week. So much love to the middle school and kindergarten teachers out there. They're better than I am.
My first question to you is, how are you not gaining 1,000 pounds? Because I happen to know your wife is like one of the most premier chefs around, and you just happen to have that built in at home. Man, I would be gaining 100 pounds.
Lucky. Yeah, we're lucky. We got a home gym. Every morning I wake up, I work out, I try to sweat to make up for what's going to happen the rest of the day. And actually, we're fortunate, man. We're fortunate. The kids probably don't know how good it is, but I certainly do, and we're lucky.
Speaking of which, Todd, we got Coach Aird with us. The greatest, highest ranked class in volleyball history at IU this past season. We knew it was good. But man, that's exactly where you wanted to be right now.
Yeah, we're fortunate. We're really proud of. I'm really proud of the staff. I'm really proud of the department at IU. All the supporting cast, the people. Recruiting really takes a village. It's one of those things, especially 24 months in. When we got here, one of our stated goals was to try to do just this. So we're fortunate. We got a great class, great kids, and obviously making history early is a positive thing.
You've got a lot of great players coming in from all over the country, and that's, as we've seen, people that follow college volleyball, the Big Ten is a juggernaut, the toughest conference that there is in that sport. And so to play that type of competition night in, night out almost when the conference comes around, you've got to have that level of player, and you're getting to that point now with these type of players.
Yeah, we've got some really nice young talent in the program. Obviously, this is a huge class, bringing in eight players, which is certainly more than I usually bring in a current year. But it was just the way it worked out. We graduated a number of kids that are going into the real world now, and hopefully really prepared to do so. It's a massive group. It's a very competitive group, and we talk about with a lot of sports, having a few good players is what a lot of programs have. When you get to the point where you have depth, where if you have an injury or someone's ill or something happens, the wheels don't fall off. That's the next big step. So we think this is the first of a bunch of pretty good classes in a row. And obviously we know the Big Ten is a challenge, and we're not assuming that we've arrived by any means, but this is a heck of a first step.
In volleyball recruiting, is there a hotbed area of the country? Like I know football, everybody talks about Texas and Florida recruiting, and in basketball, Indiana is one of them. Is there a hotbed recruiting for volleyball across the country?
Yeah, well, I'd say Indiana to begin with. I mean, much like Coach Miller's doing, we're trying to attract the best player in the state every year. We've been fortunate the next few years. We're positioned pretty well to bring in some really elite Indiana talent. I think that's one of the things that the program really needs to do, and we're going to spend a lot of time doing. But the sport has exploded. I mean, it's the premier women's sport in the Big Ten. There's over 500,000 players at the club level. It's the second most popular sport in the world, and it's growing and growing and growing. So there's great volleyball all over the country, and our job is to try to recruit the best talent that has a mutual interest in us.
Well, I've gone to a lot of national AAU basketball tournaments, and I've seen how big they are. And I think, not having been a part of it, I was at an area where they were having a national volleyball tournament several years ago in the summertime. And so we stopped in to look at it, and I was absolutely blown away at how it dwarfed the basketball tournament. It was so much bigger, and it really, opened my eyes to what a growing sport volleyball. I know it was already pretty big, but it is just, it's the new soccer of when soccer exploded for younger kids. I think volleyball and especially women, younger women's volleyball clubs are just blowing up bigger than any sport, I think, in the country right now.
There's no doubt. And we're used to going to tournaments where there's 140 courts and, 20,
I saw that. It was so
and,
impressive to see.
Yeah, it's been massive. And it's at the same time, there's a finite number of players. Like we've got 4 or 5 kids who are all ranked in the top 100, 150 players in the country that are in this class. So it's the same thing. We want to be at the table with the top programs in the country. We want to be able to win the recruiting battles against top 10 teams. And this class has certainly, begun to put us at that level where we can have those conversations with parents and kids and say, if you want to do everything at the highest level, you can do that at IU.
Yeah, I think volleyball is a unique sport because it's one that the parents of kids play in league games and whatnot. It is a popular
sport out just amongst Americans. You mentioned is one of the most popular sports in the country. It is because so many people can play, and there are so many leagues, and kids can play in so many different places in the country because it's an easier sport that you can move indoors and play year round. But taking advantage of that talent in this state has been, how much of a challenge has that been, changing the mindset that Indiana is a place to come?
Well, I think it starts with our staff not being afraid to recruit people. I mean, that's the number one thing is I want to be in the battles with the top programs. I want to be able to explain to people we've got an unbelievable degree that we offer at IU. We've got a world-class facility. It's a staff that's won national championships and trained pros. And I think that's the first part of it is, I really tried to get out and around the state when we first got the job. And just be overt about the fact that we wanted to recruit the state. We weren't afraid to get into these battles and tell people that we really believed in what we were doing. And that's resonated. And a lot of the people in the state are really excited about what we're doing. I'm really excited about the relationships we're building. IU's it's a special place. The people, IU folks know that. And when you get people on campus and they get to see where we're playing now, the level that we're going to be playing at, and the kind of talent we have coming in, good players want to play with good players. So the more classes like this we have, the better chance we have of getting this rolling.
You keeping Jeremy in line?
Yeah. He's everyone around us has done a really, really good job. I'm really proud of, and that's, you guys see that all the time. When a staff recruits a class, the head coach always gets a lot of love, but it's, it takes so many people that work selfishly and like long hours and really grind to put yourself in that position. And that's the one thing I will say about IU. They've done everything. We've been here 24 months. In the time we've been here as a staff, everything they said they were going to do, they did. And that just speaks to the character of Fred Glass. And, I'm excited to work with Scott, our new AD, moving forward. And all of their staff have been so incredibly generous with us and kind to us, and I know they're excited as well.
Yeah, I guess the big thing is the hope that you guys can get going in the fall to get the season underway. I know that all that stuff's in question right now for all of us, but I know the hope is there that that's going to move forward. And the talk has been possibly a kind of a students in live person, but on a lot of online. So it's whether or not they can get them on campus. How fearful are you of the season starting and all of that?
Well, not fearful. I think the number one thing for all of us, and you guys would echo this as well, we want people to stay safe. We want to do everything we can to try our best to mitigate things and make it as safe as possible. We know, when we talk to Dr. Rink and the people who are way, way smarter than I am, they say, there's going to be risk. There's no question, but it's about how you manage it. And so keeping our kids healthy to the best of our ability is certainly at the top of our minds, in front of our minds. And then, we talk a lot about it as a program about just controlling the controllables. Like, we're trying to win today, have a really good day today. The kids are staying fit. They're staying positive. I've been so impressed with our group and these young kids about how positive they're being and how hard they're working. And then when they tell us it's safe to go and we can get back after it, that's what we'll do. And we can't really control the stuff we can't control. We can just work hard and try to keep each other positive and keep banging away at this thing.
Yep, Coach, I can't thank you enough for joining us, man, and keep up the fight. And we'll look forward to hopefully seeing you in the fall and seeing some fun volleyball.
I appreciate it. Thanks for the time, guys, and stay healthy.
You betcha. Thank you so much. Coach Steve Aird, Indiana volleyball coach, joining us here on the program. The top 15 recruiting class for the Hoosiers heading into the season. So hopefully they'll get things up and rolling, Todd. And, man, did you play volleyball? I'm sure playing all the sports you did, that's one of the sports you played. I played league, and it was fun.
I dominated in gym class. And when we would play volleyball, I was always so excited because they had the nets a little bit lower, and it made me feel athletic. And it was almost like playing on a 9-foot rim in basketball. So it was just, obviously I was the hammer, like I would be the smash master. And then after that, I remember playing, fond memories of playing some sand volleyball during Little Five weekend.
You talk about a workout too. I mean, if you're playing, that's a hell of a workout playing sand volleyball in the summertime, especially.
Yeah, we weren't taking it quite that seriously.
I'm sure there was.
It was Little 5 week. We were more enjoying the.
I picked up on that part of it.
But it was. But that's probably the last time I remember volleyball.
I promise you, I did not play volleyball during a Little 5 weekend. That never happened for me. I was busy enjoying the festivities.
Yeah. Well, it was frat house volleyball.
Oh, I'm sure it was a blast.
It was fun.
I can only imagine. Yeah. How difficult was that for during a Little 5 for you guys? I mean, you want to go have fun, but still, there's that line you gotta ride.
No, there's no line when it comes to Little 5 weekend. It's kind of that's usually it's right after the season's over. When we're back into conditioning, doing our weight training and things like that, and it's also the time of the year. This is one of the really positives of Coach Knight being such an avid fisherman and hunter, is that he was gone most of the time. Once the season was over through the summertime, he was gone. So, we had a little bit freer leash at that point.
I should have asked this to Clark. I had it written down the whole time, and Tim also texted it in as well. But the NCAA has pushed back the withdrawal date for the NBA draft. What I don't get is, why can't players enter the draft if they get drafted or don't get drafted, still have the option to come back? What changes? Nothing changes. So why are they not allowed to make a decision like baseball? Those kids in baseball, they get drafted in college, but they may not go to that team and they'll stay playing in college. Why can't that be done in basketball? It makes no stinking sense to me.
Yeah, I really can't answer that. You're right. It doesn't make a lot of sense since it does happen in other sports, except for, there's a lot more factors that are involved other than a kid just deciding one day and saying, hey, I'm going to put my name in and kind of see what happens. Because then you have interviews with all the different teams, agents, all the stuff up until, very recently, you're not even allowed to have a conversation with an agent. Like, they're so strict about that. And
now you can have agents.
Now you've
multiple
got to be
agents.
able to have it. Right. You can have an agent for everything. So,
agent for your marketing, agent for your basketball. It's crazy.
Yeah. And most of the time, the person that you hire for your sports agent is not, a lot of times it's not the same agency. There's actually just marketing agencies that, they've got big clients on board right now, and all they're trying to do is match up a player with an endorsement deal. And so that's the thing that I can see as a bigger issue in it. I don't know that it's ever really, I can't think of a specific example where someone would have benefited had they stayed in the draft and then they didn't get drafted and then they come back to school. I don't necessarily, when you're kind of checked out at that point, in my opinion.
Well, I think it's because you've been forced to be checked out because you haven't had that option. You're right. You are checked out because.
But one of the things that you were seeing that's different now, like let's use, and I'm not picking on him, let's just use Justin Smith as an example. He put his name in there to have the opportunity to talk to teams, to gather as much information as possible. I'm going to tell you, I don't think Justin Smith thinks he was going to get drafted by putting his name in there, but that allows him to go gather a bunch of information and then take his name back out because he's most likely not going to get drafted, but it allows him to gather that intel as to what he needs to work on and what he needs to do to get to that level. And that's a new thing. They didn't used to have that. So I like the fact that they have that. I like the fact that Justin Smith got to put his name in. He got to go. John Calipari said this years ago, and it may be one of the only things I've ever agreed with what he said. He thinks every player on his team should put their name in the NBA lottery or the NBA draft every year, just so that they can go talk to teams and find out what they need to work on, what they need to do. And so I think that we are looking at it as restrictive now because they have to pull their name out before the actual draft. But I think if you look at it from the way things used to be, I think it's a lot looser now than what it was a long time ago. And I like the fact that these guys can go gather that information.
Oh, it's absolutely looser. It's closer to where it should have been. But they have to go that next step and let them just stay in the draft. And if they don't get drafted, come back. Because now if a player enters the draft, doesn't even get drafted, he cannot come back to college. And that's just idiotic. Just because you left your name in, just because you took an opportunity to see what may be out there, why does that eliminate them? The NCAA, some of their decisions are just ridiculously stupid. They've tried to maintain absolute control, and this is another aspect of that, of maintaining absolute control. And I think they're finding they have to give it up now with the name, image, likeness in the transfer portal, and it's starting to break. And I get you got to have some rules. Society has to have laws, but you can't go too far. And the NCAA has been like the Iron Curtain for all these years, and it's crumbling.
Yeah, you're right about that. I mean, it has taken a hard stance. And, the one thing, if you go back and watch the scheme, I mean, the one thing that they talk about on there that is as accurate as can be is the NCAA forever has held its hat on that amateurism label. And that's been the one word that has kind of stuck out. And as long as they blame everything on amateurism, and we want college sports to be amateurs and not get paid for what they do, that blankets a lot of different issues and rules. And that's the part of it that, I mean, they're not going to have a choice but to loosen that up. It's just, and they should. I think they should loosen it up. I don't think it needs to go, the opposite direction where everything is allowed and legal. That's what this transfer BS is to me. Like I can't stand this thing.
We got to hit a break. Our producers and they're sleeping, I think. We got Dustin
he was yawning at us.
Dustin Schutte coming up next here on Indiana Sports Beat with Coy O'Leary coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, powered by Rivals. We're back right after this.
Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Ryan Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. This is Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Indiana Sports Beat is now a part of the Rivals Network. You can go to thehoosier.com to sign up. It's free. Catch the show there each day live or at your convenience. You can also like or follow us on Facebook, follow the show's rebroadcast anywhere you podcast. If we're not on a radio station where you live, we should be. Let your local station know they need to carry Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, or simply go to thehoosier.com.
Some of the best sounds you'll ever hear are generic, safe, effective, even money-saving, just like FDA-approved generic drugs. Even if they don't come in the exact same color or shape as their brand name equivalents, they have the same key ingredients and go through a rigorous review process. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today and visit fda.gov/generic drugs. Generics are safe, effective, and can save you money. You'll like the sound of that.
This is James Blackman Jr., former Indiana Hoosier. Make sure you're keeping up with the Hoosiers on Indiana Sports Beat.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, powered by Rivals. Go to thehoosier.com, get signed up for complete coverage of the Indiana Hoosiers. Joined now by our good friend Dustin Schutte from Saturday Tradition. Dustin, how are you, man?
Hey, Jim. Hey, Todd. I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Hanging in there. Todd's ready to play golf,
great.
man. He's looking at the
We're
sun.
great.
He's waiting for the sun to come out so he can play golf today with the higher temperatures. But lots going on in the football world. I saw something Joe Buck said that Fox is going to be. It's a pretty much a done deal in quotes that crowd noise and digitized fans will be a part of the Fox football broadcast. That's pretty. Well, we've truly entered a new age of life.
So are we already admitting they're not going to have fans allowed?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that's
we're already
given.
establishing that.
That's a given. I don't think you're going to see fans in any sport this year. I don't personally, Dustin. I mean, especially, but the football, they're already planning for it.
Yeah, I think what's going to be interesting about when we talk about no fans being allowed in the stands, I think what's going to be interesting, especially when you put it in the context of college football and even college basketball, if these schools start to open up and host on-campus classes in the fall, does that mean we're going to see students going to be able to attend these games? Because you could theoretically hand out, whatever the number is, maybe 10,000 tickets, and allow students to space themselves out. And so that way, yeah, you might be able to pump in a little crowd noise like CBS does with the Masters, every year. So you might be able to pump in a little bit, but that might also, allow students to kind of get away, to have the opportunity to attend game. And that way, you're watching a game and it's not a completely barren stadium. You might be able to have a situation where you see students in there, and then maybe you don't allow people from the outside, your traditional season ticket holders, to attend games. Maybe if, another solution could potentially be if you have, some of the big donors who are sitting in the press box or sitting in suites, they might still be able to attend games. But I do think I would agree with you. I think you're going to see a very limited seating capacity this year. The interesting part to me is going to be whether or not schools are going to allow students to attend those games if they're already on campus and just not allow anybody from the outside to come in. So I think that'll be something to keep an eye on here in the coming weeks and months.
Do you really think that places like Ohio State and Penn State and Oklahoma, those places that have 100,000 plus people, I mean, tailgating is like a 2 or 3 day event for them for a home game. Do you really think fans aren't going to show up? And there might be 50,000 fans in the parking lot if they don't let them in the arena.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be another interesting aspect of this. What do you do? What does the law enforcement do? What do those departments do if they are ruling that you can't attend a game? Are you going to have to, put max security around the stadium on Saturday afternoons if those home games are scheduled? I don't know that there's a great way to go about this. It's just unprecedented times, and you would hope that fans would have, kind of understand that perspective. But at the same time, you're right. You do have these diehard fans that, going to an Ohio State, a Penn State, a Michigan game, that's been part of their tradition for, years and even decades. So that's going to be something also to keep an eye on. I don't really know how you legislate that. I mean, maybe you could send out season tickets and say, hey, you're coming into the stadium at your own risk. We advise, maybe, a certain age or whatever the case might be to stay home, or, if you have other health concerns, to stay home and maybe not come to games this year. And then, move season tickets to the next season or get a donation back or whatever the case might be. But I have a feeling that the first step is going to be to allow students on campus. If you do that, then you can allow those students into those games, in my opinion anyway. And then you can start looking at that outside fans. But I think it's going to be I agree with Jim on this. I think it's going to be very difficult to allow hundreds of thousands of people into those parking lots, into those stadiums with the current climate, everything the way it is. It's just going to be extremely difficult. But how do you address that? That's a question that I have no idea. And I'm sure these universities, that's something that they have to be working on as well.
Yeah, it's just going to be the change. It's such a massive change for all of us. And Todd, you mentioned the Ohio States and the Michigans. They're going to be losing tons of money. There's not a lot of 100,000 seat stadiums in the country, and 3 of them are in the Big Ten. That's the money that they're going to lose is unbelievable. But yeah, there is no way I expect to see 100,000 people in one place in this country until a year from now. It's just unbelievable, but it's going to be a new age.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you, and I get it. I mean, I understand that that's probably the more likely reality of this, but I just don't know. What are we going to do in November of this year when someone has, like what Fred Hoiberg had at the Big Ten tournament? Someone has the common cold or the flu. I mean, everyone's going to go into nutso world because someone's got a sneeze or a cough. And I think at some point we've got to get past that. The people who are most at risk, I'm in agreement. They shouldn't go and shouldn't attend. I understand, but eventually most of us are going to have this virus anyway. So I'm ready for us to move on from it. And I don't know. I don't know how the NCAA is going to handle it.
It's going to be tough, no doubt. Something else I saw, Dustin, Urban Meyer's son joining Luke Fickell's staff over in Cincinnati, so keeping him close to home.
Yeah, and the funny thing about that is, he's kind of following in his father's footsteps. Obviously Urban attended Cincinnati, and Urban was a minor league baseball player before he, decided to join the Cincinnati football team in the 80s. But yeah, he basically has said that he wants to switch sports. He's switching from college baseball to college football. He's going to be a walk-on. I don't know that he's expecting really or is expected to contribute. He might get a role on special teams there with the Bearcats, but he wants to go into coaching. He wants to follow in his father's footsteps, and he's got a pretty good role model for that when you look at Urban Meyer and the success he had. He's a coach that never had a single losing season, and it stops at Bowling Green, Utah, Florida, and Ohio State. And, that's just unheard of these days. Usually coaches take their lumps, and I think Urban's biggest lump was maybe a 4 or 5 loss season. So yeah, it's going to be, it'll be fun to see, how he jumps in the football ranks and how he jumps in the college coaching ranks. But yeah, he's got a pretty good role model there. And fortunately for Urban Meyer and Nate Meyer, they've got a guy who was on Urban Meyer's staff for a few years, Luke Fickell. So it should help ease that transition, and the guy who, he knows he can contribute. So that's an interesting move. And I was a little shocked that he gave up baseball because he was a pretty solid player for the Bearcats there on the diamond. But, he wants to start pursuing a career in college coaching, and a good place to get a good start.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity, no doubt about that, and it's just an odd time. But he has the opportunity to do a lot of things, so he's very fortunate to go in that direction. I'm just a little surprised he didn't start out at Ohio State, but I guess that would be a little too obvious, huh?
Yeah, and I don't know that. I don't know about the baseball side of things. He probably could have carved out a role in his spot on Ohio State's baseball team. I don't know; they're usually pretty good. But yeah, he's the Myers have been going to Cincinnati. I think it's been a few generations now. So there was always a little tug there from Cincinnati. So it wasn't too surprising that he went there, but I think, when you consider how long Urban had been at Ohio State, it was a bit of a surprise that he didn't try to play baseball at Ohio State. But again, the Myers have been going to Cincinnati, and I think they are even donors there. So it wasn't all that shocking that another Meyer started his career at Cincinnati. And who knows, maybe, Nate Meyer in a couple decades, maybe he'll get the shot to be the head coach at Ohio State, and really follow in his father's footsteps.
That's nothing big going on this week in college football, other than now the NCAA has extended the dead period to June 30th for everything, which they have been pretty much dealing with that already anyway. So not much effect there, I don't think.
Yeah, and again, this is when you talk about schools like, as we've mentioned multiple times, this is where it really hurts programs like Indiana and Purdue and Northwestern, places where you need to come on campus, where those coaches, their biggest influence is going to be meeting, those prospects face to face and trying to convince them that, hey, this is a better place for you to get your start and maybe contribute earlier in your career than you would at Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan. Those traditional programs have been doing well on the recruiting trail. And, the one surprise, I guess you could say, is Minnesota, who's got, I think, the 6th ranked recruiting class, or they're in the top 10, I know for sure. And they were second in the Big Ten. So, PJ Fleck, that 11-2 season, his culture pitch is obviously going over really well. But on the positive side, there is a little bit of good news here. West Virginia's president said that there will be football this season, and the Texas coaching staff is going to return to their offices there in Austin starting Monday, at least according to a recent report, I believe from Rivals.com today. So those are positive signs in the right direction. It's not a huge step. It's not players aren't going to be returning, anytime soon, but you got to take that first step somewhere. And with West Virginia's president saying, hey, we're going to play football, and Texas, their staff returning to those offices in Austin next week, those are good early first signs that, hey, maybe things will be back on track, and maybe we'll start to see players back on campuses starting in July and get that 6 to 8 week period there where kids need the proper training and to prepare for that first game. So some good news, even though you've extended the recruiting dead period, that's not a great sign for some of these other programs that aren't Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. But if you're a college football fan, today you did hear some good news out of a couple institutions today.
Yeah, that's great news, and hopefully that continues to trend in that direction. We can only hope. Anything that you got you need to get out to the folks?
Just anything, SaturdayTradition.com. We're following this stuff as closely as possible. We've extended a little bit past the Big Ten here to keep an eye on, with conferences and different schools making their own jurisdictions and making their own decisions on when players can return and when campuses can open and things of that nature. We're keeping an eye on it all. So if you want college football news, we're extending past the Big Ten here a little bit during this time because, we want to keep an eye on everything. And like I said, when the University of Texas and their coaching staff is returning, it's just going to be a domino effect. And if they go a week without having any issues or any hiccups along the way, I think you're going to start to see even more programs, not just in the Big 12, but in the Big 10, SEC, ACC, maybe start to open things up here a little bit. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. So, yeah, just SaturdayTradition.com, and we got you covered.
Yeah, as long as they don't have any hiccups, the problem is what if they do have a hiccup? And how the reaction will be to that. But that's all we can do is wait. But, Dustin, can't thank you enough for joining us, man. We appreciate it each week.
Hey, thanks, Jim. Thanks, Todd. Have a great weekend, guys.
See you, bud.
You betcha. Dustin Schutte from Saturday Tradition joining us here on the Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Larry. It's been another fun day, man. But, lots to talk about. But he hit on that key thing right there. Hopefully there's no hiccups. My question is, what happens if they do all this and there is a hiccup? It's like, wow, do we have the same reaction as we did in March when Rudy Gobert and all of a sudden, bam, everything just shut down? What's going to happen if that happens? I'm sure that's part of the protocols that are being put in place and all that, but it's so much. That's what people don't understand. There are so many moving parts, things you have to think about, things you have to be ready for, precautions you have to take, and there's just so much to it.
Yeah, there is. I mean, it's way bigger. I mean, when you start discussing it and playing out things in your mind, I mean, you even start thinking of more and more layers of this that you're going to have to factor in. And it's obviously we've never dealt with it before, so we don't have a ton to. I've heard a lot of people compare this to 9/11, and there's just no comparison to that. That we we weren't scared to get back into. We were scared of another terrorist threat.
Yeah, it was over pretty much.
Right. I mean, we can take a lot of security measures to prevent the most
safe.
of that from happening. But
right.
this is just totally different. I mean, we're infecting each other.
And we don't have those safety measures.
We don't have them, and so it's just a lot different. There's a lot of things to factor into it, and that's why I say we'll know a little bit more. The beginning of June, middle of June, hopefully, because we start to hear more medical, preventative issues and vaccines and things that can happen like that. Once that stuff is established, then I think we can go crazy on opening things back up, because once you can start to control it and fix it a little bit. But right now, I mean, that's what I can't believe is, as smart as everyone in the world is, I can't believe we can't come up with something to fix this. But
hopefully they will get there to that point. But, man, it was a great show today as always. Clark Kellogg joined us. Always great having Clark on from
the Dalai Lama basketball.
I love that. Steve,
I feel how you feel when you go to church and you feel good about yourself after you go to church and you leave there. That's how I feel when Clark gets off the show every time.
How can you not? He's such a positive.
Everything he says, you're like, yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're right. Yes, sir. You're right.
And it's how he talks. His voice is so soothing.
He's butter.
He is, man. Indiana volleyball coach Steve Air joined us as well, talking about their top 15 recruiting class. They come in, and of course, Dustin Schutte from Saturday Tradition was on with us. Tomorrow, Will Sheehy. This may be his first radio interview in years. Alec Lasley from the Hoosier.com is going to join us to get us updated on Indiana basketball recruiting. Maybe you get Joe Smith on tomorrow. I'll have to give Joe a call and get him on. See what JoJo's up to. See how he's doing. But we're looking forward to each and all of that. The temperatures are up, and they're staying up. We're done with the cold weather crap. It's over. That's one thing that is over. It's over until September or something.
Sorry, Ryan in Michigan. It's probably not over for you, but it's over for us.
Oh, that's funny. And Ryan did send a text in. He says that he thinks Indiana's going to hit 26 wins this year. What do you think? I think they're getting closer to that with the other Big Ten teams falling apart, but we'll see about that. He says it was nice up in the mitten, but raining, I think he said. What was his? Raining, but nice temperatures here in the mitten.
Yeah, nice temperatures to them, though, is 37.
Yeah, that's right. It's above freezing.
That's a heat wave when it gets to 37 up there.
But and Tim hit the text line as well. He loves how you say Calipari. So who's the coach of Kentucky?
John Calipari.
Yeah, I don't know what about
Calipari. Calipari.
Yeah, calamari. I call him calamari. I wish I had some calamari right now, but looking forward to being back at it tomorrow, man. We can't
cheating dirtbag. That's what I call him, cheating dirtbag.
Thank everybody enough for joining us, and being back here at it tomorrow. Go out and have yourself a great day, and thanks a lot to Jimmy and to Todd. And I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.